The following is a production by Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. You can support Lone Star Community Radio by donating and sponsoring programs just like this. For more information, check us out online at irlonestar.com. This segment is brought to you by
Team Sinisi is a proud sponsor of Conroe Culture News. Vinny Sinisi and his professional team provide comprehensive real estate services throughout the greater Montgomery County area and beyond. Whether looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, Team Sinisi has an impeccable reputation. Contact Team Sinisi for a great experience at teamsinisi.com. That's TEAMSINISI.com.
Since 2004, Roger Stein Chiropractic has offered spine and joint manipulation services to residents of Montgomery County and surrounding areas. Conditions treated include lower back pain, migraines, headaches, whiplash, carpal tunnel, neck pain, sciatica, joint pain, sports injuries, herniated discs, and complications from pregnancy. Roger Stein Chiropractic, led by Dr. Stacy Rogers and Dr. Brian McGee, is an integrity-verified chiropractic clinic. Call 936-441-9990 for an appointment or visit rogerssteinchiropractic.com. That's RODGERSSTEIN chiropractic.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW-LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC-LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Hello, so I am Margie Taylor, and I am sitting with Echo Hudson. She is an assistant district attorney at Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, working with violence against women. She's also, and this takes up a lot of her time lately, also a candidate for a judge of County Court of Law 4. Yes. So welcome, Echo.
Thank you so much for having me, Margie.
Of course. I know this is a busy time for you. I mean, you're working, you're a mom, you're a wife, and you're also a candidate.
Yes.
So I just want people to know a little bit about you, what your background is, your education, and what your role would be, because some people don't really understand what County Court of Law 4 is exactly.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, because there's 6, right? There's going to be 6.
Right.
And what's the difference?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay, so my undergraduate degree was in justice, minored in philosophy, honored in statistical analysis of all things. And
Ew.
So who knew that I would like statistics, but I really do actually.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. Didn't expect that. So I went to law school in 2005 to 2008, graduated, came to Texas, started prosecuting right away. And then came to Montgomery County in 2009. Brett Ligon had just been elected the Montgomery County District Attorney, so started then. In 2011, as part of that office, I wrote a grant for funding for the first specialized domestic violence prosecutor in the county. Worked as that prosecutor for a couple years, started the domestic violence division. That kind of became my specialty in the area of criminal law. So we started the domestic violence court at that time in 2011. It's been running for 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's become really,
I bet it's
really
busy.
successful.
Is it pretty busy?
Yeah, and it doesn't slow down. And COVID didn't slow anything down. It ramped up another 20% on average, and it hasn't gone back down, unfortunately. Yeah, so I'm currently the chief prosecutor of the domestic violence division, still at the DA's office. I've done a little bit in the middle there. I went out on my own for a couple years, took a break when my youngest was born, and did some criminal defense, some family law, a little bit of civil, and then Brett asked me to come back in 2016, and I did, went back into the DEA's office and the domestic violence division, so here I am. Now, it's important for that background, I guess, because County Court 4 is a criminal court. It's misdemeanors. It is general criminal by agreement of the judges, but then it also holds that special domestic violence docket that I've been working from the prosecution side for the most part of that court's existence. So I'm only running for office because of that court, and County Court 4 is pretty special.
And you have a real passion for this as well.
I do. It's really become, when we started, it was a need that needed to be filled in the community, something we hadn't done yet. Montgomery County courts were not specialized at that time. This docket was actually the first one that I think we got the agreement of the judges to specialize. And from there, it was kind of a continuing thing that we started to see how effective that can be. So we kind of changed the face of how the courts organize themselves. But it's also become something that's much bigger than just, we need to do this. There's the gap to be filled, and it's become something that's really important to victims in Montgomery County. It's really important to a lot of our citizens to see that we're addressing domestic violence so directly. It's a special topic. I think, it's one of those that tends to be not political. It tends to be across the board that everyone agrees domestic violence and how we handle it is a need for our community.
So you work with women, you work with men, because I'm sure men are involved in this, and people don't realize that, but men can be abused.
Absolutely.
And kids, do you ever work with kids?
So we do. We work with them in a couple ways. And, of course, child crimes, there's a separate division under the same umbrella. So we work, I'm in the Special Victims Unit at the DA's office. So we have
Sounds like a TV show.
It is. It is. We decided to call ourselves that a couple years ago. We have internet crimes against children. We have physical crimes against children. So what I do is I partner with those other prosecutors in that specialized umbrella division. But my particular domestic violence division, we deal with adult victims, intimate partner, and then we take child victim cases that are out of the same type of transaction. So if an abuser is charged with assaulting his intimate partner, but then the children are part of that, then yes, we will take those cases, absolutely.
As long as it's related to that unit.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. So you've kind of talked to me a little bit about why you're running as a candidate. Now, do you have an opponent?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
I have not seen that opponent. That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
I know that person exists.
Yes.
So why do you think you are the most qualified candidate?
So
sounds like a lot of reasons.
It is, and it's really, it comes down to this court. There's 6 county courts, like you said, and each one has kind of a special part in Montgomery County, and this court is domestic violence. And so with my background, with what I do, I'm the only person that has worked this court from the inside out. I help develop the policies. I help develop the court schedule. I help develop the docket. I help develop the processes that we use and the underlying. So we offer certain courses in order for even a case to be dismissed. If we can't prove a case, we try to ask for batterers intervention prevention counseling. And so those types of programs that we've implemented are not something you can just step into and do. You have to understand the why.
You've been a part of it from the beginning.
Absolutely. And so it
You've
really
been very
is
intimate with the whole process.
Yes, absolutely. And so there's really no one else that can say that. There's no one else that can say that. So
does it seem a little overwhelming at times to be a judge? I mean, what does that look like to you?
It does, in the way of, I'm currently an advocate. And I get to be loud and outspoken, and I get to, I get to go in the media if I want to. And I guess, just my personality, I actually like to fly under the radar. So running for office has been a switch for me.
Yes.
And kind of putting myself out there and talking about all of these things I've just been doing for so long.
It's hard to talk about yourself, too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to get into the
because when you advocate for someone else, that's a whole different role.
Absolutely, and the focus is on them, and so you can just be that voice. And so, it's been a very different switch. But I will say, after election, judges are expected to be fair and impartial and balanced and not advocates. And so it will kind of be nice to go into a role like that where I can kind of sit back a little bit again and get out of the spotlight. So I think I'm looking forward to that.
They can't, go out in the media as much because they need to be unbiased.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
They need to have that temperament that is very low profile,
Yes.
decisive, and reflective, that kind of thing. Not a volatile kind of
Right.
demeanor.
Right, and we don't want to go out and start stirring up, a lot of talk and discussion about cases that are not meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Pending things. You can't talk about
Correct.
those things because
Right.
you need to be fair
Absolutely.
and impartial.
Yep.
Right? The
Yep.
judge. That's what I see.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that part.
Okay. So I know you've been working hard on this. When did you decide that this was going to happen, that you were going to be a candidate?
So I think the final decision was made in June of 2020. I knew that Judge Marianne Turner was retiring. She's the judge of County Court 4. She had been pretty open about it for, I don't know, months before that. And then, of course, the talk around the courthouse started with who's running and who's not. And people kept coming up to me and they're like, oh, you're running for DV court, right? And I was like, no, I am not running for politics. No, thank you, And so after a while, I kept getting that question. So I went home, sat down with my husband, and I said, man,
And he's very supportive of you
he's
as well.
he is my rock and he is my study. He is amazing. But I sat down with him, and he's always my sounding board. And so I said, I don't want to be in politics. Montgomery County is a tough place to be in politics.
It is.
It's very tough. And I'm not sure that's really something I want to do. And he said, well, let's talk about what you would run for. This is your court. This is what you've done. And do you really want someone else that doesn't know what you've done to step in there and risk losing the success you've created in that court? And man, that hit home.
I'm sure.
And so he
'Cause
just
it's yours.
Yes. And he broke down all of those fears of, my family being out in the world and the pressures and the time and everything that it takes. And he said, everything you do with a purpose. And when you decide to do it, you don't do it half-heartedly. And he said, you make the decision to do this and you run with it, and we've got your back. And so
Wow.
that was kind of the final conversation. And I said, you know what? All right, let's do this. And then that's kind of where we went. But it took me about 3 months to get there. It was a big, long,
Sure.
careful
It's not
decision.
an easy decision.
Absolutely.
Because basically the family's running,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they're
And it takes
with
a lot
you.
of time.
Yeah.
And it takes money.
Yes.
And you have to fundraise
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Do you have any events coming up?
So
soon?
I have some private events, some meet and greets that people are hosting. The Defense Bar has put out a meet and greet for me, so that's kind of just like some of the circles that want me to be
More
introduced.
people to see you, hear you, understand.
We're maybe talking about, so February 7th happens to be my birthday. So we're talking about maybe doing a final fundraiser birthday bash about a week before early elections start. So
Share the love with Echo.
That's right, right. Yeah. Echo's birthday extravaganza maybe or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I can see the hearts and all that.
Something.
I can just kind of visualize the
Pretty
whole
close,
thing.
yeah.
Yes. So this is a new court. See, it's not like you really want to see things done differently. You've been a part of this for
Right.
a period of time,
Right.
and it totally makes sense why you would want to continue on course
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
And this is your passion. And, without having anybody visibly out there going against what you're saying, I can see this being very successful for
Thank
you,
you.
a very successful journey.
Thank you.
And, I'm excited for you. I think this is going to be a great opportunity to make some positive impact in the community.
Thank you.
With especially people that need it the most.
Yeah.
And everybody has heard, well, I don't know about everybody, but it's been out in the community that because of the closures and COVID and all that, there's been more domestic violence.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So the studies have been nationally a general increase, and it kind of depends on where you go to see that. Across the state of Texas, I think the Texas Council on Family Violence came back with their report last year. There's a generalized increase, and in 2021, it didn't seem to go down. There's also studies that talk about when there's a natural disaster or when there's an increased stress on society in general, domestic violence will often spike very, very quickly. But then for it to go back down, it takes a lot longer. So that bell curve is really high, and then it just very slowly tapers off. So we're still in the throes of that. And I think with everything going on in our society, I think even with the Omicron variant that's come out and the Delta variant, I think all of those stressors have continued for domestic violence victims, unfortunately. And when we talk about...
Well, it's unpredictable.
Absolutely.
People don't know
yes.
what the status is,
Yes.
what's coming out
Yes.
behind us.
And people have
what's
lost
the future
their jobs and
look
that-
like?
yes, and
and
that
you're
creates
still with the
stress.
same family that's had stress, and if you don't take care of whatever the issue is that's bringing on the stress, it's
Yes.
going to keep building up.
Yes, absolutely. And so in Montgomery County, we saw an average 20% increase from March of 2020 when the initial lockdowns started happening. Some months it was as much as a 50% increase. I ran the stats again for October of 2021, which was Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have continued to see an average of 20% increase. So it's not gone down. Part of that may be the increase in population in our county, but really it's so closely connected because, our population's been increasing for 10 years or more. And so I think that it's a direct correlation to everything that's been going on with COVID lockdown. So when that happened, my division, we ramped up. We started working 24/7 to respond to victims. I've been on call for 2.5 years now to law enforcement, 24/7 for domestic violence calls. They call me in the middle of the night and they're out on scene with a victim, especially strangulation cases. Those are some of our highest lethality cases where we're most likely to end up in a homicide. And so they'll call me, they'll run the case down to me, they'll make sure if we can get the victim in we have a 24/7 nurse examiner for some of the most severe injuries, and I will get them an advocate out to respond to either the hospital or to call them on scene.
The
and
sooner
talk
the
to them.
better.
Absolutely. That's the only statistic we have where victims tend to stay alive is when we get them into advocacy services right away. So what we've done is we've created a high-risk team. It's called the DV Alert Team. And we've also created a program with the Women's Center, Montgomery County Women's Center, that we have a DV co-op where we have a co-located, so they come to our office and office with us, advocate. And so we want to make sure that those services are 24/7 available. So when EMS is out on scene and they need an advocate, they know to come and call this number and get a hold of somebody. And those types of programs that we've done, we ramped those up during COVID lockdown because nobody was able to go out and get in the homes because of, all the protocols and things. And so we really had to reconfigure how we were doing that program.
How you respond.
Absolutely. And it was more important than ever because it seems like the violence increased as much as the volume, which is scary. In Montgomery County, the majority of homicides are domestic violence, and they are intimate partners. I think the last statistic that Brett put out was that it's above 70%. So what we're looking at is escalating, repeating violence with intimate partner situations. And when you add that increased stress and everything, it's just like a pressure cooker.
How do you intervene before it gets to that point and escalates?
That's the hard part, right, is reaching somebody who has been isolated, who has, is in the throes of a domestic violence situation. They are trauma victims, and so they're not making decisions on the same
And they might be
playing
complacent about it as well,
field.
right?
Yes, they may have accepted their situation.
Excuse
right?
it.
Yes. And, emotional attachment to a batterer, that's a very real thing. And having children where you can't really just pick up and leave and you don't want to take those children away from their parent or you don't want to break up a home, marriage is hard work. Everyone says that, right? And if we can figure this out and if we can work through our issues, then it's going to be better. And I think a lot of people, that's really why they stay. They want to fix their person that they love, and they want their relationship to be better. And so what we want to do with that is give them skills, give them education, give them opportunity, because domestic violence is also a cycle. And so children who are raised in abusive relationships don't understand what a toxic relationship looks like, and they get into their own toxic relationships. You know, it's a 90%
It's what they're used
cycle.
to.
Right.
Sure.
And so they've never learned the tools to de-escalate without violence. They've never learned how to have a healthy relationship. So part of what we do is we collaborate with advocacy organizations to educate in the schools, to educate in the community, if we can reach anybody with how to, you know, move past an unhealthy relationship, or to hopefully solve it before it becomes violent. That's a huge part of what we do. It's being proactive before there's a criminal case.
So offering out the education in the community. And then also telling people maybe where they can go to get some counseling.
Yes.
You know, before they have to call 911.
Yes, absolutely. If there's never a criminal case, if there's never a 911 call, that's the best case scenario, right? That would be the most wonderful thing.
So what organizations can help people?
So I think in Montgomery County, we are so fortunate. Other counties, I know Harris County, there's probably 6 different women's advocacy organizations for shelter. In Montgomery County, we've been able to use just the one main that covers the entire county. It's the Montgomery County Women's Center. They have a 24-hour emergency hotline. They have an undisclosed shelter location for those who are in immediate crisis. They have a short-term shelter at a different location over on Airport Road, where you can children can come with mom. Or we have, at that location, we have for men who are trying to get shelter from an abusive relationship.
And that
facility.
happens.
Yes.
I know of one incident where it happened.
Yes, absolutely. I think our cases, when they come in, it's about 15 to 20% male victims.
And it's hard for them.
Yes, yes. And, you know, we have people in same-sex relationships as well, and that's a high risk factor for domestic violence, actually. And so, you know, we have to be able to serve all of those people in this county. Yeah.
Period.
So, and then there's the long-term shelter where it's actually an apartment complex that is a secure facility, but that's also at the Women's Center. It's called Reaching Pines. They can stay there up to a year, and they have an increasing rate of rent, so they start to learn how to be financially responsible. And they help with all of the job skills and things that someone might need if they've been out of the workforce, or maybe never entered the workforce, became a stay-at-home mom very young, or something, never had the opportunity to go to school.
Gives them all the resources
Absolutely.
and education to
Yes.
be
Have
self-sustaining
vocation.
on
Yes.
their own.
Yeah.
So this is all really, truly interesting. We could probably talk for an
Forever.
hour or longer,
Yeah.
because there's so many different ways to go.
Yeah.
But let's narrow it into how can someone get in touch with you? Your website, your Facebook, or anything else?
Absolutely. So my call sign, I guess, is Elect Echo. It's pretty easy. So www.electecho.com. If you go to
ECHO.
ECHO, just yes, the real Echo. And I'll be the only Echo on the ballot, so I'll be easy to find.
How many other echoes have you ever run across?
I've only met one. Only met
Interesting.
one in college, yes. Happened to be the polar opposite of me, but that's fine. Everyone defines themselves. But yes, so not very many echoes out there. But yes, so you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/electecho.
Or they can reach out to you when they see you out in the community.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things going on right now
Lots
on the
of
campaign
candidate
trail,
forums.
right?
Yes, and I'm posting on my Facebook the candidate forums that are coming up.
Perfect.
So you can go and you can look at the events coming up. I think we have, gosh, how many do we have?
Too many.
Yes,
I
7
check
to
it every
10
day,
more?
every
Yes,
week,
yes.
all the time.
Yes.
Because they keep changing.
Yes.
Or others keep being added on.
Right.
It's just like,
Last
I don't
day
know.
to register to vote for the Republican primary is January 31st. First day of early voting is February 14th. And then the primary election is March 1st. It's coming up. Yep.
So elect Echo.
Elect Echo.
Elect Echo. Echo Hudson.
Echo Hutson.
So she's very qualified, and talk to her. See what she's all about.
Yeah, please do. I welcome it. I like talking to people about what I do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Echo.
Thank you so much for your time, Margie. I so appreciate it.